God bless America. Good Saturday morning, everybody. I hope that you are all having a good weekend so far, and I thank you for allowing me to have a little bit of your time here today as we talk about the news from Friday, because this new format that I've given a try this last week demands that I do the news the day after it happens rather than the evening that it happens. So the news has been a day late, and I wanted to do a video to cover Friday's news, and I am so glad that I decided to monitor the news for Friday, because the Mueller team was before a federal judge in regards to what's his name? Starts with a P. I don't remember. It's in this, Manafort, there it is, Paul Manafort indictments, and the judge was less than charitable, shall we say, with the Mueller team, offering such hot takes as suggesting they lied about the scope of the investigation, they're seeking unfettered power, and are more interested on bringing down the president than in actually getting justice. Now, let's just go through the column, and I'll talk about anything that I can remember to talk about when we get done. District Judge T.S. Ellis III. I don't know why I think it should be Elliott, but it should. T.S. Ellis III told Mueller's team, "You don't really care about Mr. Manafort. You really care about what information Mr. Manafort can give you to lead you to Mr. Trump and an impeachment or whatever." Ellis demanded to see the unredacted scope memo, a document outlining the scope of the special counsel's Russia probe that we've talked about in recent days in the past. The hearing, where Manafort's team fought to dismiss an 18-count indictment on tax and bank fraud-related charges, took a confrontational turn, yada, yada, yada. Manafort's attorneys argue the special counsel doesn't have the power to indict him on the charges they brought. The Reagan-appointed judge asked Mueller's team where they got the authority to indict Manafort on alleged crimes dating back as far as 2005. The special counsel argues that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein granted them broad authority in his May 2, 2017 letter appointing Mueller to this investigation. After the revelation that the team is using information from the earlier DOJ probe, Ellis said the information did not arise out of the special counsel probe and therefore may not be within the scope of that investigation. "We don't want anyone with unfettered power," he said. Mueller's team says its authority is laid out in documents including the August 2017 scope memo, and some powers are actually secret because they involve ongoing investigations. Ellis seemed amused and not persuaded. He summed up the argument of the special counsel's office as, "We said this was what the investigation was about, but we are not bound by it, and we were lying." He referenced the common exclamation from NFL announcers saying, "Come on, man." The judge also gave the government 2 weeks to hand over the unredacted scope memo. After prosecutors are reluctant to do so, claiming that it has material that doesn't pertain to Manafort. "I'll be the judge of that," Ellis said. And it goes on from there. Now, why the unredacted scope memo would have information that doesn't pertain to Manafort that the judge shouldn't be allowed to see is interesting to me. Because who authored the memo? Who authored the scope? What it's being called the scope memo now. There's so many memos. Who authored the scope memo? It was Rod Rosenstein. What position does Rod Rosenstein hold? He's the Deputy Attorney General. He's the number 2 guy in all of the DOJ. He's above the position that James Comey held while he was in the FBI. He is second in the DOJ, only to Jeff Sessions. What is the DOJ? It is the Department of Justice. What is the Department of Justice under? It's under the executive branch. What is the executive branch headed by? The president. And who is the president? The president is meant to be the leader, de facto leader of the United States of America by election, by representative election, which means, by extension, that Rod Rosenstein works for and ought to be subject to the oversight of the people. And so far, as we talked about in Thursday's video, he is failing to subject himself to oversight from the American people. One of the ways he's doing that is by refusing to cooperate with the legislature. He's behaving in the way that people call the deep state. The deep state, for those of you who don't know, is not a conspiracy theory in the old-fashioned sense. No, the deep state is political appointees that end up in the positions that they hold across multiple years, sometimes multiple administrations, like Rosenstein. Rosenstein is an Obama-era appointee who run their positions by according to their own will rather than the will of the people. In the case of Rod Rosenstein, Rosenstein should be running the DOJ according to the will of the people as expressed through the election of President Trump, according, of course, to the Constitution. But Rosenstein is not doing that. Rosenstein authored a special counsel memo that is purposefully vague in its scope, so that the special counsel can go to any lengths that it can whatsoever to unseat a duly elected president of the United States. That's why they're not sharing the memo. As I've told you in recent days, there is a DOJ guideline that says that a special counsel must be given a specific crime to investigate. The scope of the special counsel must be explicitly laid out. It cannot be vague. It cannot be, what was the word that Ellis used? It cannot be unfettered in its scope. But Rosenstein authored a memo that would allow Mueller to pursue any and all avenues by which he may attack President Trump. And we know that Rosenstein authored the memo this way because he's not sharing it with us. They're hiding behind the ongoing investigation line, I think, to try and get away with the vague language in the memo. Now, remember, Mueller was appointed to investigate Russian collusion. That's the understanding that everyone had. When James Comey got fired, he leaked his classified documents that he had, conversations with the president that he had written down, classified information, for the purpose of getting a special counsel. He succeeded. There is now a special counsel. The special counsel was appointed to investigate Russian collusion. If you want to be generous, you could say that the special counsel was appointed to investigate Russian collusion and possible obstruction of an investigation into Russian collusion. And in indicting Manafort for crimes that were committed in 2005, as it was pointed out, there's nothing to do with Russian collusion in these indictments. That's why Ellis said, where did that line go? That's why Ellis said the information did not arise out of the special counsel. The earlier DOJ probe, let's talk about that for a minute. The DOJ, and by extension, Robert Mueller, as he was the head of the FBI for a while, the DOJ knew about Manafort's ties to the Russian government. Manafort was a lobbyist in a pro-Russian Ukraine lobbying group for a little while, back in around 2005. And the DOJ knew about this. They declined to prosecute him. There's a columnist in Politico. I saw the article. I saw the laid eyes on the article today It's a little bit older than that, though. There's an article in Politico. The guy writing the article says, no one has ever been indicted under the law that Manafort is being indicted under. See, the DOJ knew about Manafort's ties, and they didn't indict him back in 2005. But Mueller decided to indict him now. Why might that be? There's only one reason that I can think of that would be, and that would be to squeeze Manafort for information on Trump. If you have another explanation, I would love to hear it. I highly doubt that there's any reason why he wouldn't have been indicted before and is being indicted now. That would not the reason would not be to get Trump. I highly doubt that would be the case. I think that's all that I have to say on this at this time. We'll be following the story, so if you want to see my comments on new developments, make sure you hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you really enjoyed this video, hit subscribe so that you'll see more content like this one. Make sure you're checking back every weekday for new reports. I hope that you will all join me again on Monday. I'm planning on shifting back to the evening style reports. That's just, I like to do it that way because it gets the news stories of the day done in the day that they occur. So I'm going to do my best to stick to that. I think I can do it in the evening with the evening uploads. They just might go up a little bit later in future weeks. But we'll see how it goes. Make sure that you're subscribed and that your notifications are turned on so that you don't miss future videos. Thank you all so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Come back, join us on Monday. Until then, God bless.